This video, we're gonna have some major news in the NFT gaming space. Yuga Labs launches their first Bitcoin NFT, and we're gonna be talking about some up and coming projects by some of the biggest IPs in the world. Now, the first piece of news that we have is that a team or some people that used to work at Electronic Sports, EA Games, and Sony have come together and raised $13 million to form a new company called Avalon. And what they're trying to do is become a AAA interoperable game world. So what does that mean exactly? Well, the whole idea is that if you buy an asset in one game, let's just say League of Legends, why can't you use that specific item in another game? For example, Overwatch, right? I mean, those are completely different worlds, right? But that's the whole idea. Why does one asset have to sit in one game and you can't use it in another? So these guys are trying to build a game where the items can be interoperable in different universes, right? So maybe you're going to see it in the Sandbox, Decentraland, or whatever the case is. Now, this is a narrative that people have used in the past, right? Where it's like, oh, you got to own your assets. So it's not necessarily a new, exciting narrative, but the team is going to be more veteran, more seasoned because they were from EA and Sony and other video game companies. And I'm looking at this article and they have a lot of experience in the Web2 gaming space. So what's really interesting to me is this particular company, the COO of this Avalon, used to be the head of business development at Bandai, which has the IP rights for Dragon Ball Z, Naruto, One Piece. So maybe there might be some Web3 anime games coming out soon. Who knows, right? But they definitely do have the connection. And the other interesting piece of news is that they're choosing to build on top of Ethereum, layer 2s. So for example, Polygon, Immutable X, and so on and so forth. It's hard to say, which layer 2, whether it's Polygon, Immutable X, which one will actually be the one that wins and takes it all. Or maybe there's going to be a world where they all can exist at the same time and occupy their own niche. But underlying layer behind all of it, the layer 1 is going to be Ethereum. So it seems like Ethereum is kind of dominating the narrative of being that layer 1 that everybody trusts. Now, for me, when I'm kind of looking at this, it's an interesting narrative in that if you use one item, you can use it in other games. But I do think there are some flaws in that, right? For example, if the item, the NFT that you use in one game can be used in another, it makes sense if it's a cosmetic, right? Because cosmetic doesn't necessarily interfere with the game itself. So if you have a skin that looks cool in one place, why not use it in another? That makes a lot of sense. And the devs will have to just redesign the skin to make sure it works in that game, unless they have the same exact engine. Now, if the item has stats on it, right? So like if it's a sword that's powerful, why that actually is very more difficult than people realize is because, if this item is imported into another game, that game designer for the other game has to tweak the stats of that item to make sure it doesn't break their game. So, if people are just making a bunch of items and you can use it anywhere, then it's going to completely break the economy of a game. And I think that's something people don't really realize of how difficult it is to actually build a game economy, especially if you're starting from zero, right? And so those are always things you want to pay attention to, because a lot of times I see these like games, not referring to Avalon, what they're doing specifically, but just in general in the Web3 space. A lot of times I can just look at what they're doing and I can already see the economy is it's almost set up to fail, right? And I mean, the truth really is if they're able to sell NFTs and a token, then, the risk is actually on the holders, not necessarily on the company. So just keep that in mind, that a lot of people are just creating assets to create assets, not necessarily thinking long-term about the economy of a game, which is very, very, very difficult to do. Our next piece of news is also related to Web3 gaming, and that is Unity introduces some new asset store category for decentralized technology. So all that really means, basically, if you go on the Unity asset store, basically it's a store where you can buy different like 3D models and stuff like that to build on top of Unity. And Unity, if you didn't know, it's just like a platform where people can like build games on top, build like 3D models and things like that. So basically when you build on top of Unity, they're going to have, these features that allow you to port it directly into blockchains. So as you can see, Verified Solutions, they have these SDKs, which stand for Software Development Kits, meaning that if you create these assets within Unity, you can put it into Flow, you can put it into MetaMask, I guess. So you can put it on these different chains. So it makes it easier for people who create assets, but they're not really savvy when it comes to creating blockchain technology. It just makes it so much easier. So that's definitely a step in the right direction in terms of providing the tools that allow the creators to create. But overall, it's just the narrative that gaming goes hand in hand with Web3, and you can definitely see a lot of these gaming companies and the people that provide the infrastructure are definitely spending the resources in order to support the blockchain technologies. All right, so let's go ahead and get into the NFT world, and we're going to talk about Yuga Labs. So Yuga Labs, the holding company of Punks, Bored Ape Yacht Club, and so on and so forth. Other side, they recently just launched this website called TwelveFold.io, and they're really capturing that narrative that people are inscribing NFTs into Bitcoin. I'm not going to go into the whole details of technologically how it works, but basically just think of it like a Bitcoin NFT, right? And so this is pretty much what it is. It's going to be a limited 300 generative art pieces, kind of like art blocks, right? Where it's an AI is kind of generating it with a set of rules. So the art itself was created by Yuga Labs in-house, so it's not necessarily like a famous artist. It's just their team. And in order to get it, they're going to have more announcements on the technical aspects of how to buy it. But from what I can gather, they're going to have a bidding process. You're going to have to bid in Bitcoin. And I'm sure these are going to be expensive because you got a lot of people in the Bored Ape community and stuff like that who have a lot of money and they want to be the first to buy these 300 generative pieces, right? When it comes to Yuga Labs as a brand, basically everyone's like, whatever Yuga puts out, it's going to be a hit. And so far, they kind of proved that to be true. At this point, anything Yuga that comes out, people are just going to buy it because the community is so strong and they believe in the brand and the company so much. And so this is just a testament to that. So, when the bidding starts happening, I'm going to be watching to see how people respond to it, how much money people are throwing in the bids, because I'm really curious to see how strong and how much buying power that community has. So let's talk about some up and coming NFT projects now. So a while back ago, maybe a few months ago, I talked about this project called Symbiogenesis, which is a project by Square Enix. They have a lot of games under their belt, like Kingdom Hearts, Nier Automata, Final Fantasy. So this is like a real deal studio, right? So they're going to be launching an NFT collectible art project. Very interesting how they call it an art project, right? Not like a whole like PFP, because I don't think they should compete in that realm, to be honest. Probably it will be a PFP, but they're going to probably take a different approach where it's just like art and probably give you some benefits. A lot of it's in Japanese. I mean, you could translate if you want, but then the teaser and the site, the Discord is going to be open on March 9th. So about a week from now, by the time you're watching this, when you see different anime characters, I guess these are different classes, possibly Newt, or maybe this is a person. These are spikes, spikes with the horns. The normies, I don't know who's coming up with the English names for this. Maybe the translation's not as cool. Maybe it's cooler in Japanese, but you just want to put it on your radar in case you're interested in the whole anime, Square Enix, and that Final Fantasy kind of vibe. And then a little hint for you guys is that when we're clicking on who they're following, it's Polygon, a gaming guild in Japan. And then they have this other person who's a founder of a play to earn gaming guild, LGG. So obviously this is going to be a, gaming type of project related to gaming guilds. Otherwise they wouldn't follow these people. And looks like they're probably going to be building on top of Polygon. So Polygon, once again, business development team completely crushing it. Honestly, the future for a lot of these larger brands, like for example, Starbucks has had a successful launch when it comes to its NFTs they built on top of Polygon. I really do feel like more and more of these like Web2 companies moving into Web3, it actually makes more sense for them to just build on top of a layer 2 where it's cheaper, it's faster, they can give away free stuff, people don't have to pay for gas, and they're not really trying to compete in that whole like PFP popularity contest like it's high school. And I really think that is the future, but we'll see how this play out over time. Speaking of the future, let's go ahead and talk about VeeFriends, right? We haven't talked about these guys in a while. So VeeFriends recently has announced a business development opportunity with Gary Vee. There's not too much information about it, but they're basically saying like, hey, if you are a mom and pop restaurant, convenience store, toy store, basically all these like brick and mortar type of stores, they want to work with you and probably somehow implement VeeFriends IP into your store, which is kind of interesting. So if you're interested, check them out on Twitter and fill out the form and learn more about that. There's not too much information. I do know that Carrefour in the past have worked with different brands and stuff like that to implement their IP in different Web2 stuff. You can see over here, there's a Carrefour IP where you can charge your electric car, right? So these are, use cases of an IP. So I'm guessing like Gary Vee kind of wants to do his own version of what that looks like. And I guess if, VeeFriends is like everywhere, then it's going to increase the popularity of the brand. So, and somehow they're probably going to make like licensing from that. And if you kind of have that Gary Vee stamp and VeeFriends stamp on your store, will more people come? Possibly. I mean, Gary Vee is a pretty popular guy. Pretty interesting there. All right, and the next interesting piece of news I have for you is that this is Korean girl group called AESPA, and they're quite popular online. If you like search them up on YouTube, they sing, they dance, they're kind of like Blackpink. They actually partner with some people to launch their own NFT, and it's interesting because they did it without even calling what they're selling in NFT. So the AE Fits, which is going to be one of a kind looks for clothes, I guess, $2,000. AE accessories, or not dollars, but euros. AE accessories, 100 euros, and the AE pets is 25 euros. So Karina's outfit is over here, and it's sold out. So they definitely selling these things out, and you get the clothes. Okay, great. Then you have Giselle's outfit, also sold out. And there's only one of these, right? So, it kind of makes sense that it will sell out. Okay, so now we're looking at the pets, and this is where it's a little weird. Now, the pets supply is going to be 10,000, but less than 200 of them have been sold. So it looks like this wasn't really the best hit. Now, when I'm looking at the accessories, okay, yes, you can wear the necklace on the girl. Only 7 of these has been sold. So it seems like, this experiment particularly didn't really make too much revenue, probably not what they expected. I guess maybe there's a barrier for, you know, their Web2 audience, and they have to get MetaMask and everything to purchase it, and everything's on Polygon, by the way. But I think it's like a little unclear of like why someone should buy like this one-of-one fits makes sense, because there's always going to be people that are willing to spend thousands of dollars, and then you also get like other benefits, I think a meet and greet as well when you buy this. But like for these kind of things, it's kind of like, well, what do I do with this ear cuff? There's a lot of questions that I raise, and unless they're answered, it's very difficult to get people to buy during a bear market. But I do respect the effort in that this girl group is like doing NFTs, and I'm sure their business team is like thinking about how to sell digital collectibles because the profit margin on digital collectibles are so high. But it's definitely a good case study, especially if you're someone who wants to do digital collectibles. You don't necessarily want to do a PFP. You know, what is a different way to sell product in a way where people don't expect a return on investment? But at the same time, without the ROI, it's like, well, will people buy it, right? So questions, not a lot of answers quite yet, but I think over time we'll figure it out. And so with that said, that is everything we got to cover for this video. If you enjoyed it, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, turn on notifications if you want to see more videos like this, and make sure to follow me on Twitter at Patrick Dang, where I share some of my most insightful thoughts on the NFT space, and I will see you in the next one.